The upcoming Flash movie, as part of the DC Extended Universe, is set to be about Flashpoint and sort of reset their continuity. Combined with all the recent drama around the lead, Ezra Miller, and the fact that I haven't been excited for most DC movies as of late has led me to not look forward to it at all. Look, even though I enjoyed the Suicide Squad and the Batman, this franchise is broken, and Flashpoint is just Warner Brothers' easy way out of this broken and rushed cinematic universe that they couldn't make work. And on top of all of that, we already have a really good Flashpoint movie. Released in 2013 and based off of the DC graphic novel, Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox was directed by Jay Olivia. This movie was the beginning of a new continuity of direct-to-video DC animated movies that were released from 2013 to 2020. Now, while I haven't read the original book, from what I know about it, this movie seems to be an incredibly faithful adaptation, and it's just a great movie in general. So let's talk about it. Right off the bat, it is clear that this movie expects you to have prior knowledge of DC. They do a brief retelling of Barry Allen's origin story, but then shove you into the modern era of the Justice League. Barry still hasn't forgiven himself for the death of his mother, despite it being out of his control. Then him going to stop the rogues is just another day as the Flash. While I can see this alienating some viewers, the way this movie was released means that really only big fans would seek it out. And besides, most people will know these characters' basic backstories due to how iconic they are. Also, right from the beginning, we get to see Reverse Flash and just how crazy he is. He's ready to kill thousands out of a sheer hatred for Barry Allen. This is always a main trait of his character, but it's used really well in this movie, and especially at the end. We'll get to that in a bit, though. After the Justice League saves the day from Zoom's bombs, Reverse Flash gives Barry one final taunt before Barry runs away and wakes up in the Flashpoint timeline. This creates a bit of mystery and intrigue throughout the entire film. We are then introduced to a couple of the Flashpoint characters. These guys are probably my favorite part of the movie. Thomas Wayne as Batman is just as tragic as his son in the main timeline, but with less rules. Just the fact that he uses guns in his first scene lets us know this, and it establishes him greatly. He also manages to retain a lot of what makes us love classic Batman. Cyborg on my first viewing was strange, but on my second, it does make sense that this guy with some of the most powerful computers on Earth would rise to be the world's greatest hero without Superman. Speaking of Superman, while he isn't in the film much, I like him a lot. He's a scared and innocent soul who was tortured, and when he is shown kindness and the beauty of the sun, goes to become a hero himself and try to discover his powers. And then there's Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Their war is the main conflict of this timeline, and to get there, they both made horrible choices, and the war itself is a typical fantasy war based on Diana killing Mera. But Arthur also cheated on his wife and stuff. This does make the viewer want for the good guys to win, I'll give it that. Oh, and there's also this little subplot about Hal Jordan that doesn't really go anywhere except to show how, hey, look, he's doing Green Lantern stuff, but he's not really Green Lantern here. And honestly, he could have been written out of the movie entirely. Even in the main timeline, they try to establish he and Barry's friendship, but with the beginning of the movie trying to get quickly to Flashpoint, it doesn't feel well established at all. However, I really like the Flash. His emotional reunion with his mother in Flashpoint is nice, and then he realizes his mistakes and puts everything on the line to bring things back to the way they were. His first interaction with Dr. Wayne is great, with Batman believing his son could be alive and witnessing the crazy guy say how he's a speedster. Flash's speech about hope towards Victor and the Shazam kids is also really nice, and shows the pure heart of his character, even if they probably changed their mind to go stop the war too quickly. And that's really the middle chunk of the film, just seeing the differences in this world compared to the original timeline. Then the team goes to a final battle at New Themyscira, which is a pretty cool scene with a lot of nods to other DC characters. And Reverse Flash returns to taunt and beat up Barry for creating this mess of a timeline out of his own emotions. This scene is actually a lot like the last episode of Invincible Season 1. Thawne forces Barry to admit that he broke the timeline, and this actually works surprisingly well, due to the fact that we never actually saw where Barry ran at the beginning of the movie, and the first scenes showed just how badly he felt about his mom's death. Zoom breaks Barry both physically and mentally, and he is only stopped by Batman. And killing him made the timeline implode for some reason, but Barry going to stop himself and giving Thomas's letter to Bruce were both handled so well that it more than made up for it, and delivered a pretty great end to this movie. And that's pretty much the story. My biggest complaints kind of all come back to its short runtime. The movie is an hour and 15 minutes, meaning there isn't as much time to explore either timeline as I probably would have liked. I'm also not the biggest fan of the art style. I mean, just look at Aquaman. But it's a great Flash story and a cool, different type of DC world. I'd give Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox an 8 out of 10. It's pretty great. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments, and thanks for watching. Now let's see how the Flash movie next year falls apart.